today. This is a kind of different event. It is not just a lecturer and a guest for the program who is challenged by some colleagues of ours. It is now a representation in the kind of reporting of a seminar that was organized last semester by Professor Andrea Pető and her students. And it was about the preservation and interpretation of certain knowledges of the past and for the promotion of social justice.
We developed the course together. So the syllabus we developed together. So there were joint sessions and there were separate sessions. There were introductory theoretical discussions about what is an archive, what archive can do to you. And then there were separate archives, like the secret police archives, like the legal systems and the archives, like the colonial archives, the digital archives, which were case studies introducing those particular topics. We also had hands-on working experience in archives. So we went to the Open Society Archive, they were very nicely hosted us, and also the Visual History Archive, and the students had this hands-on experience working in this context. The most innovative feature of the course, that every student had a project which had a digital component. But why are you doing this, right? So what is the extra? What do you learn from this? And that's why I'm interested in the view of the students and also the two partners of the civic engagement programs, that how do they see what is the value of doing a project like this? How I see it as a simple professor, I would say that the students had a possibility to connect the theoretical context with certain project-based work, which actually matters. They their topics, they have chosen their projects, and these projects have an afterlife. Some of the students who are presenting their work are doing it as a part of the MA thesis, so as far as the afterlife of the projects are concerned. Some of them will be a part of the MA project. Some of them actually will be presented in the as a part of activism.
My name is Constanze Jaidler. I'm a student in the history department. I'm doing my MA here at CEU. And one of the issues that was problematic and is still problematic is what to do with the birth house of Adolf Hitler. I wanted to see what is the attitude of the people responsible for the sites towards memory and history. What kind of historical narrative do they want to establish, and what images and text appear, and moreover, what images or texts are absent from these platforms. I used all the documents I found and turned it into a timeline, which you can see online. I also write about what is happening right now. And while the timeline is an archive for my reflections on the thesis writing process.
My name is Camila Montoya Guevara. I am a second-year student in the Cultural Heritage program. My project for this course resulted in a website exploring practices of archiving and presenting the experience of educational segregation in two separate cases, one in Canada and one here in Hungary. My aim is to have these two experiences, recognizing that they're very different, have them in dialogue with each other, and see how one country's approach to confronting such a history can potentially inform another. So my project is currently a website which presents the Canadian experience and is growing by reaching out to different Hungarian organizations in Hungary that are dealing with Roma and human rights empowerment. And so through that, it is growing in the oral history course framework. And you can see the project at opendoorsofeducation.weebly.com.
I am a second-year student in Department of Gender Studies. Choosing collaboration with blackberries was motivated by the personal, academic, or my political interest, which I saw them really closely linked to the ones of the blackberries' work. We also got access to the transcription of the narrative interviews with 16 lesbian women from Hungary, conducted as a part of the project Secret Years. Thinking about how we could connect these stories with the intention to collect visual material, we decided to create a map. We didn't hide the places which stayed empty. We had to deal with the fact that this is our interpretation of the past, which we tried to kind of compensate with the open-ended format of the map and with the possibility of further changes. And I think this really helped us to reflect on the political importance of the archives as well as the politics of archives themselves.
My name is Raihan Satembekova and I'm from 1 year MA Department of Gender Studies. On the whole territory of Gulag camps, which were existing during Stalinist totalitarian regimes, there were 3 forced labor camps that were only for women. On the official website of this museum, I found that there were 7 Hungarian women that were among the victims of this camp. I started my investigation from the online archives in Russian, and I found there were not only 7, but actually 9 Hungarian women that were the victims of this camp. This project turned out to be my MA thesis, which I plan to visit this museum and conduct a couple of interviews with the museum staff and perhaps finding the families of those women.
I'm Allie Smith, and I'm a member of the Legal Studies Department studying human rights. The central idea of my project was that of mapping the space of atrocity onto everyday space and using disruption of everyday space to facilitate remembrance. The Open Society Archive, with which CEU has a partnership, houses a collection of reports created by Physicians for Human Rights during the Forensic Assistance Project in Bosnia and Herzegovina from 1997 to 1999. These reports chronicle the exhumation of mass graves from the Yugoslav wars. Through an installation where I delineated the layout of the 2 graves on the floor in Nadar 9, I sought to intervene in and disrupt the viewer's movement through his or her everyday environment and ask the viewer in that moment to consider the archival memories presented of the graves, as well as the conflict in the former Yugoslavia more generally. While an archive, especially a digital archive, may be useful for research and memory preservation, I feel that archives and artists should collaborate more to bring the content of the archive into public consciousness.